The journey to ultimate bliss has to start somewhere. What were you expecting me to say? Were you expecting me to say something grand? It's got to start somewhere, right? Duh. It's got to start somewhere indeed. But you can't achieve ultimate bliss when there is not even just the normal happiness that people afford themselves in day-to-day life. If you recall in possibly the last 2 sermons we've done at the monastery, the English sermons, we talked a lot about being able to forgive, how to find peace within, how to find acceptance. We talked about anger and how you can learn to not manage, because we are not about managing negative emotions, because to manage is simply to let it be there and just keep it under control. That is not what we use the Dhamma for. Our intention, our goal is to entirely eradicate negative emotions, not to manage them, but really to manage them out. Manage them out. Get rid of them, extinguish them once and for all. So, I've been building up to this day. What I've been trying to help you do is to find a level of peace and happiness within yourselves, which has to be the foundation on which we start building the journey or the path to ultimate happiness. So I hope you have been practicing what we've been learning here. 20% is what we do here, 80% is what you've got to be doing at home. So, for instance, we've been talking about forgiveness, and I hope you've been putting the Dhamma into practice. And I hope you've been able to dig deep within your soul, within your heart, and ask yourselves, are there people that you have struggled to forgive? Are there people against whom you have resentments towards? Are there people you feel have done wrong unto you? And then you keep harboring those feelings of ill will and anger and hatred, those emotions. We need to learn to be able to let go. Letting go doesn't need to start with big things, like letting go of my children, letting go of my house, letting go of my TV. Doesn't have to start there. In fact, that's the last place you ought to start. You can start by letting go of ill will towards others. You can start by letting go of holding on to feelings, holding on to these strong negative emotions of anger and hatred. You can start letting go there. See, we're not talking about letting go of material things. Forgiveness is the best kind of giving. Forgiving. It doesn't cost you a penny. It's not easy to do. It's easier to give away your house than to give forgiveness. Don't you think? Because one, you just get up, open the door, walk outside, close the door, here's the keys. You've given your house. Forgiveness is more difficult. isn't it? Because there's nothing material associated there, nothing material attached. The Buddha's teaching is for us to be able to find peace within. As students of the Dhamma, hopefully you are now beginning to realize that whenever you are suffering inside, that you only ought to point the finger one way, and that is towards you. I think that's as good as any. That's as good as any place to start with the Dhamma. Always ask yourself, which way am I pointing my finger? Your fingerometer. Is it pointing outwards or is it pointing inwards? Whenever there's suffering. It comes with accepting that I am the architect of my suffering. I create my own suffering, because really there is no such thing as suffering. In reality, in real terms, suffering does not exist. We can create suffering in our minds, but it does not exist out there. And that's a good thing, because it means we can be empowered. It means we are entirely in control as to whether we suffer or not. So if you're suffering right now, guess who's responsible? 50%. Who? The other 50? You. You know how when people break up, they say, it's not you, it's me? Yeah. Always. It's never you, it's always me. So, last meditation program, which is exactly a month ago. I remember some faces, but I don't think all of you were here. I explained to you this method, 4-stepped approach to how you can practice the Dhamma, or you can approach meditation. I talked about the Chaturaraka. Starting off with Buddhanussatiya, moving on to Marananussatiya, Asubhanussatiya, and Mettanussatiya. I want to put that into practice today, because I think last time, by the time I had finished explaining all of that, we had hardly any time left to actually put it into practice. And let's use our time wisely today. And I want to help you get the most out of your time today and really put what you have learned into practice through meditation. So as a starter, let us take a few moments to reflect within ourselves and see how much we have transformed, who we used to be and who we are today. Because really all of the Dhamma starts with joy. In a heart which has no joy, the ultimate bliss of Nibbana does not grow. You need a foundation of joy on which we can build the palace of Nibbana. And as I always keep reminding you, like suffering, joy does not come from the outside world either. So neither happiness nor suffering are external inputs. They're both making of the mind. One's default state is actually is actually happiness. You have the choice of creating your own suffering, a choice which you all exert very well. Don't you? Like, you have a choice to vote, don't you? Some people vote, some people don't. You have a choice. Free choice, right? Everyone has a free choice. So you all have a free choice as to suffer or not to suffer. When you have a choice to suffer, why do you always choose to suffer? Because you cannot suffer if you don't want to. But we always choose to suffer. But again, as I say, it's a good thing. Because it means that suffering is not fixed. Suffering is not an uncurable disease. It's optional. It's not mandatory that we suffer. It's optional. We can choose to suffer, which means we can choose not to suffer. Given that it is our choice, let us make the right choice. Throughout samsara, we've been making the wrong choice. Oh, I have a choice as to whether I can suffer or not? Oh, great, let me choose to suffer. That's what we've been doing all along. We've been choosing to suffer, making the wrong choice. You can choose not to suffer. You can choose not to suffer. So, no matter where we are, no matter who we are, no matter where we've come from, Nibbana is within the reach of all of us. And I want you all to really believe in that. Nibbana is within the reach of all of you. Time and time I keep reminding this to all of you. Your age, your sex, your complexion, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're educated or uneducated, has nothing to do with Nibbana. It's simply the choice of suffering. Whether you're rich or poor, you have the choice to suffer. Whether you're a man or woman, you have a choice to suffer. Whether you're educated or uneducated, you have a choice to suffer. The problem is we always making the wrong choice. Always choose to suffer. That's what we do. I'm trying to teach you how to choose not to suffer. That's all this is. It's very simple. I'm trying to teach you how to make the right choice and stop making the wrong choices. So wherever we are, whoever we are, wherever we've come from, let's accept, let's be okay with where we are. That's the first place to start. Let's begin with acceptance. Let's be okay with who we are. You'll all be aware of the kinds of thoughts that you have. And I think last week I talked about your temperament, your natural temperament, your natural tendencies, the kind of person you are. There will be some among you who are more prone or who are more inclined to raga. So that is your personality trait. One who is more prone to desirous thoughts. Others who are more prone to thoughts of aversion, dvesha. And others who are more prone to thoughts of moha, delusion. That's your natural tendency. What I'm proposing to you is, let's accept that that's who we are, and let's be okay with that. That's where we have to begin. Let's be okay, let's accept. We have a problem, okay, I've got a problem. Fine. Fine. Because remember, these are your symptoms. The disease lay within, and these are your symptoms. Let me ask you this question. Think and answer carefully. We've got two diseases, okay? Two diseases. You can pick which disease you want to pick up, but you're going to have to pick up one or the other. You're going to have to pick one of these two diseases, right? There's no choice about that, but you can pick one or the other. One disease, they're both terminal, so you will die as a result of both of these. One shows symptoms, the other doesn't. So with one of these diseases, you get a temperature, you get a runny nose, you get a headache. These are the symptoms. You will die in 6 months' time. The moment you are infected, in 6 months' time you will die. However, during the course of this 6 months, symptoms will start to appear. There's the other disease, you will also die in 6 months, but there won't be any symptoms. And they're both curable. If identified soon enough and treated, you can be cured. But they're both terminal. Which of these two diseases, if given the choice, you will want to pick up? First one or second one? First one. Why is that? Because of symptoms. Yeah, exactly. Because when you're able to spot the symptoms, now you know you've got the disease and now you can start treating it. Remember, they're both curable. They're both treatable. The thoughts of raga, dvesha and moha that you sense and you find disgusting, because I know some of you, because you're so passionate about Nibbana, because you really want to get this done, you're constantly battling with raga, dvesha, moha and the symptoms of it. So for instance, there'll be some among you who are still fighting with your strong desire for food. Various things. Could be cake, could be ice cream, could be chocolate, could be pizza, could be chicken biryani, whatever. You'll be fighting. Those will be your temptations. You're fighting with your temptations. And you'll be sick of the fact that these temptations keep surfacing in your mind. Swaminas, I find it really disgusting that these temptations keep coming into my mind. I don't want it to be the case. I don't want to feel these temptations, one of you might say. For the other, it may be anger. It may be that you're constantly feeling anger towards other people, other events. It may be your parents. It may be your children. Maybe your relations. Maybe your colleagues. Always angry about them. And this is what you're struggling with. For others, it might be ego. And you find it sickening, you find it disgusting that these thoughts keep surfacing in your mind. Really, what you're saying is, I'm experiencing symptoms, and I don't like my symptoms. I want to rid these symptoms. Let the disease be, I just don't want the symptoms. What you're asking for is something pretty dangerous. Because what you're saying is, I wish the symptoms didn't show up. Let the disease be there. I just wish that the symptoms didn't show up. So what you're saying is, let the disease be there. I just wish I didn't have a headache. I wish I didn't have a runny nose. I wish I didn't get a temperature. I'm all right with the disease, just don't want the symptoms. But you told me a moment ago you'd rather get disease 1 versus disease 2. The first one you were okay with because when the symptoms show, now you know you have a problem and therefore now you can treat it. Whereas if you couldn't spot the symptoms, how would you be able to treat it? This is why I say constant, always, whenever we have new anagarikas who come to the monastery, right? This is what usually happens, okay? So they come first week, they're so eager about nirvana, they want to ordain, right? And they want to really make this their life going forth and the practice. And they have an unsurmountable amount of respect towards the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. And all the defilements that they have been cultivating in their lay lives have been suppressed. Not eradicated, just suppressed. Like a bowl that's pressed under the water. For as long as you hold it down, it doesn't surface. And because they want this so much, they'll just keep it suppressed. The first week passes by, it's fine. The second week passes by, fine. By the third week, holding down that ball is becoming tedious. Just imagine, right? There's a ball filled with gas or some kind of air, and you're trying to hold it down under the water. You can't do that forever. Because that is a very artificial and deliberate approach to trying to keep it underwater, submerged in water. The natural tendency is for it to resurface. So you're using force to suppress those emotions. That's pointless. So really, when we talk to them, the first time, second time, third time we talk to them, it appears like, hey, there's nothing wrong with them. Sometimes I sit down and talk with some of them and I wonder, dude, you should be advising me. You seem to be free of desire, free of aversion, and free of delusion. I seem to have more problems than you do. How about we switch roles? You advise me what I should be doing. But give it enough time, and all those defilements, they'll start to surface. Happens every time. This is why at this monastery we don't ordain the following day. You come today, I want to ordain, wait. First, discover who you are. Because right now, you've got a facade in front of you. You've got a mask. And sometimes you don't even know you're holding a mask. You go stand in front of the mirror, and you're seeing is the mask. You're not seeing the real you. Because this is all abhisankara. When you want something so badly, you will suppress what is natural and show a pretense. It's not something that anyone does deliberately. It's not something that anyone does through ill will. It's just very natural. It's like, remember when you first went out to see someone you wanted to propose to somebody, okay? When you went out to see someone who you liked for the first time, girlfriend, boyfriend, right? A partner. You know that that person was not the real you. The first time you approached that person, it was never the real you. You know how they say, no one is as pretty as they are on their Facebook picture, and no one is as ugly as they are on their identity card. You heard that? Yeah. None of these two aspects are real. What I see now, that's the real you. But what I see now, that's not how your profile picture will be on Facebook like. And what I see now will not be what you look like on your identity card. Because in both those situations, you're creating an image. You're portraying an image. You're projecting an image, depending on what the other person wants to see. So even when you might have gone to get into a relationship with someone, to sweet talk somebody, you will put on a face. That's not the real you. That's why they say never rush into relationships. Because given enough time, you will discover who the real person is. But for that, you need to allow time. Why time? Because it's abhisankara, you can't keep doing forever. It's going to get tiring. That's why they say give time for people to understand each other. Abhisankara you can't do forever because it gets very tiring. How long can you act and pretend to be like an arahant? How long can you pretend to be an arahant? You can't do that forever. An arahant, as he walks along the road, if there are noises, sounds that come from around him, he doesn't have a desire, he doesn't have a want or a need to turn his head and look around. If you're not an arahant, you will want to. But you may not, because you want to pretend, you want to show that you're an arahant. Sometimes people fall into this misbelief, this wrong belief that I'm an arahant, and they pretend to be an arahant. But given enough time, when they're not on guard, when they forget the fact that they're an arahant, that can happen, right? You can forget the fact that you're an arahant, and then all of a sudden you just turned your head and looked, oh, bugger. Again, because of pretenses. So what I'm trying to say is, just be yourself. There's no better place to start meditating than accepting who you are. That's why they say when you go in front of the lawyer, when you go in front of your doctor, don't pretend to be someone you're not. When you go in front of your teacher, these three people, don't pretend to be someone you're not. Your lawyer, your doctor, and your teacher. Don't pretend to be someone you're not. Bad idea. If you pretend to be someone you're not in front of your lawyer, what's going to happen? When everything starts to come out in the courtroom, then you're in for big trouble. But at least if you can be completely honest with your lawyer, then he or she knows you inside out. Then he can help you. He or she can help you. But if things start to surface in the courtroom, then that's not a nice thing to happen. What about your doctor? You don't explain, you don't reveal all your symptoms. You're going to get treated for the wrong disease. Sometimes the meds you get will have side effects so severe that you're going to pick up something worse than you went in with. And then finally your teacher. particularly a teacher who is helping you to attain Nibbana. Don't pretend to be someone you're not. Just be yourself. In every sense of the word, just be yourself. It's a piece of advice I give to all our monks, all our Anagarikas at the monastery. Swaminatha says, please be yourself. Anagarikas, please be yourself. Don't pretend to be someone you're not. If you have feelings of sensual desire, then go and talk to your teacher about it. Don't hide it from your teacher, assuming that if my teacher finds out, I'm going to get a good telling off. No, that's wrong. If you are someone who has anger and that keeps bothering you, thoughts of ill will, thoughts of resentment, if they keep bothering you, then don't hide them. Because ultimately your teacher is also your doctor, but for the mind. Isn't it? And then thoughts of ego, don't hide them. For instance, say you have thoughts of ego, or you have egotistical thoughts about your teacher. Say perhaps you feel, why should I worship my teacher? He's also a man just like me. He's just like me, right? If you feel that way, go and tell about that to your teacher. Sir, I feel that you and I are equal. I don't feel like I should worship you. I don't feel like I should respect you. But I know that that's a problem with me. Please, can you help me? Be open and honest with your teacher. Just like you would with your doctor, just like you would with your lawyer. So now you're going to start to meditate. What I want you all to do is to, when you start your practice, folks, accept who you are. Don't try to pretend you are someone you're not. Or don't try to pretend you are someone who has no feelings of desire. Don't think that you're saints. I don't know if you are, but if you're not, then don't pretend to be a saint. Be okay with the fact that you have desire. Be okay with the fact that you have aversion. Be okay with the fact that you have thoughts of delusion. Because only when you are open and honest about them can you start tackling those problems. Don't think just because you've gone into a temple, just because you walked into a monastery, now you're expected to be someone you're not. That's not true. Don't think you're expected to be someone you're not. Certainly not in this room. Just in this room, be yourself. Be yourself, particularly with yourself. The last person you should be deceptive towards is yourself. Otherwise, how can you treat yourself? Right? So now, what I want you to do is, let's take a few moments to learn to accept who we are before we start treating ourselves. I want you to take a few moments to reflect on who you are, the kind of temperament that you have, your tendencies. At the moment you close your eyes, thoughts will start flooding into your mind. Thoughts of desire, thoughts of anger, thoughts of ego, right? And just be okay. Just observe them. Let them rush in. Let them come in. If, for example, the first thought that comes to your mind is, hey, that flower arrangement, that looks beautiful. That's okay. Be aware of that. Just let it come in. Okay, so I see. So you find beauty in this flower arrangement, huh? All right. This is something you can tell yourself. Or you might say, you might have thoughts of anger. Say, perhaps on your way here on the bus, right? Someone said something that really upset you. Or you have a favorite seat on the bus and someone was sat there today. And you are not okay with that, but you've been keeping quiet about it. It's happened 1 or 2 days.